And now, a new segment called Great Moments in TSA History.
In the United States, there's a dedicated group of men and women on the front lines of airport security, where no infraction is too small, and where basic politeness is bravely cast aside. Not since our bold forefathers thought a crate of tea was excessive carry-on has there been such cargo-passionate patriots. They are the TSA, tediously slow authoritarians. We salute these frontline heroes, honor their tireless work ethic, not to mention their unfailing ability to squeeze into tight blue polyester.
Not a lot of people know this, but in 2012, the TSA introduced a program called Managed Inclusion, which, come to think of it, sounds a lot like an oxymoron because inclusion means everyone's included, right? If it's managed inclusion, some people are excluded. So what's managed inclusion all about? Well, after the TSA introduced the faster pre-check line some years back, some travellers who only go on vacation once a year were complaining bitterly how unfair it was that they couldn't use it. The TSA got tired of all the complaints, particularly the ones not written in crayon, and they relented, just like a besieged parent whose kids are constantly whining to use Tik Tok. Managed inclusion was the TSA's way of allowing some of those whiny Karens into the pre-check line using the same precise methodology that approves folks with a minus 2000 FICO rating for credit cards. Actually, managed inclusion was worse than that. The way that they selected people, and this is absolutely true, was via an iPad app that a TSA agent touched to simply display an arrow that randomly pointed left or right towards either the regular security line or pre-check. Now, it's worth mentioning that humans also have the capacity to select something at random using something called their brain. Then again, having one of those isn't currently a requirement to work at the TSA, and may even be considered a career-crushing disability that disqualifies them from ever advancing up the ranks. Anyway, if their brain wasn't an option, they could have still maybe flipped a coin or used one of these, a brilliant $2 device from my childhood called a Pop-O-Matic. Remember that? Great fun. As I mentioned, the TSA dismissed the easy and obvious solutions and instead went for an app. No one really thought too much about this app until 2015, when software developer Kevin Burke was taking a flight. He was curious how much the app cost to make, so he filed a Freedom of Information request with the government, and 8 months later, or in government terms, instantly, he got the result. Guess how much the TSA agreed to pay for this little pointy arrow app thing? Well, if you guessed $1.5 million, you'd be absolutely insane. And you'd be correct. Now, some people have a problem with that, and they questioned how a government agency could possibly have overpaid for something as simple as a randomized arrow app. The answer, my friend, is that the government isn't usually associated with terms like value for money, efficiency, and prudent budgeting. Now, admittedly, I wasn't there, but I suspect the negotiation for the contract went down something like this. Hello, nice to meet you, Bob. Good morning, Luke. I'm sure glad IBM could meet with us. We need a randomizer app. How much would that cost us on a very tight budget? Well, the good news is we already have some software that generates a random number every time you press a button. Let me show you how it works. Here we go, 1.1 million. Hey, that's a bargain, we'll take it. Oh, I was just showing you the random number. Did you need more money? Why didn't you say so? Let's make it 1.2 million. 1.2 is good? Well, that's great, we have a deal. Let's call it 1.4 million. Okay. Yes, according to the contract, the vendor was IBM, which most people don't know stands for I've been mugged. So just how difficult is it to create this type of app? Well, I'm no Steve Jobs, but when I think back to my school days, a randomizer app was one of the first things we created in kindergarten. Apparently others agree because YouTube was flooded with videos from teens who showed how they could create the same TSA app in less than 10 minutes. Commenting from his parents' basement, programmer/hacker Kevin said, "Dude, I charge $100 an hour. I could have done this for like $20. So it does seem like the TSA overpaid by, let's see. Just checking on my $1,200 calculator, about $1.4 million. They could have paid Kevin $20 and thrown in a rent-free apartment plus moving expenses just to finally get him out of his parents' basement. In defense of this gigantic payment to IBM, a government spokesman said it may have included lengthy training sessions plus hundreds of iPads to master the app. Now, I get the iPads part because they would have needed those, but lengthy training sessions? How much training is needed to show someone how to swipe a screen? Aren't TSA agents already on Tinder 98% of the day, getting rejected 99% of the time? Further seeking to justify IBM's grossly overinflated price, another insider commented that the fee may have included an allowance for future updates to the app. Really? What could they possibly need to update an app that points an arrow? The mind boggles, doesn't it? Another young programmer thought that he would do the TSA a favor by creating the exact same arrow app on Android, and he called it Flippermatic. As a gesture to save taxpayers money, he gifted the app to the TSA so that they could ask for their money back from IBM. Unfortunately, there was a slight snafu in that the TSA had already bought hundreds of iPads, and of course, they don't run Android. Come to think of it, it wouldn't have worked anyway, because if they had accepted the gift, all those TSA agents would have had to be retrained on how to swipe on Android. My vote is on this, the Pop-O-Matic. It would bring a bit of fun to going through airport security, and the TSA officer could let each passenger pop the popper themselves. If it lands on number 1 or 2, that's the lane you go in. Number 3, you can leave your shoes on. Number 4, you get priority boarding. If it lands on 5, you don't get shouted at. And 6, well, don't ask about 6. That's the one that you don't want. Fortunately for all of us, the TSA dropped managed inclusion and eventually replaced it with their current state-of-the-art security system known as Managed Confusion.
The TSA, the nation's greatest heroes protecting us on the front lines of travel. Next time, on Great Moments in TSA History, the time they confiscated 83 bottles of suspicious, colorless, odorless liquid. The bottles were sent to the TSA's state-of-the-art lab for testing, and the results were conclusive. The bottles contained a chemical known as H2O. Disaster averted. Yes, we can all sleep a little easier knowing that the TSA is in charge.
Thanks for watching that clip. In a moment, I'll tell you how you can watch the full episode. But just before that, we have a nifty free guide for you, which you can get at travelproshow.com. It's called 7 Top Travel Hacks to Save You Money on Your Next Flight. And it's the ultimate blueprint for getting the best deal every time. For more travel pro tips, subscribe to this channel by clicking on the little bell down there, and then leave a comment below saying, "I subscribed," and I'll personally respond to your comment. Also, since you just watched a clip, you can now watch the full episode of the show here. By the way, thank you for supporting creators like us so that we can continue to bring you high quality original content.